Hi everyone, I'm Corey Minton, Field CTO for Splunk, and we are coming off the backs of 2 exciting weeks. We've had Cisco Live here in Las Vegas, and now we've had Splunk's .conf 24 in Vegas as well. And it's been a great story of Cisco and Splunk coming together. And I thought I'd take this time to invite Stephen Dickens from the Futurum Group to chat with us a little bit about his take on what these 2 conferences have been like and really that story of coming together. So Stephen, thanks for joining me today.
Hey Corey, thanks for having me on the show.
Fantastic. So I would love to get your take on, just at a high level, after 2 weeks of big announcements and from a product perspective and a company perspective, kind of what's your take on that Cisco Splunk story as you walk away?
Well, we were talking about it just off camera a few moments ago. As an analyst, I get to see a lot of acquisitions, get to speak to a lot of executive teams post-acquisition and how the planning's going. I've been impressed at the speed of which you've made big decisions, and then how they've manifested in this last couple of weeks with some of the announcements. I think specifically the Thousand Eyes App Dynamics and the Splunk Observability piece. Those were some pretty big rocks to move around the organization, and to be able to make the announcements you've made, pull those together, build the story, and then being able to bring that to market in the announcements, that's been impressive to me at least.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we have made a bunch of organizational changes. They are starting to manifest, in some of the products, and some of the big announcements this week have been, really about how does that portfolio come together, and you kind of touched on it. So from an observability market perspective, how do you think that Cisco and Splunk combination, making some of those moves organizationally and trying to integrate those products, what sort of impacts does that have on the world of observability?
So I think look at Splunk in isolation. You guys are in a great spot in the observability space, market leading, whatever you want to say there. You were certainly one of the biggest players. Then you look at where Cisco's assets were with Thousand Eyes and AppD, probably really good assets for their one stovepipe, maybe not as broad from a platform perspective. I think you bring that together, and I think it was Tom Casey in his presentation did it well. It's that holistic sort of perspective of you've got now, the ability to go 3-tier app with the App Dynamics piece, deep network integration with the Thousand Eyes, and then where you guys traditionally were with the sort of cloud native piece and the hybrid piece, you bring those 2 components together with where you were from a UX and platform point of view. And I think that story plays that really well for me. I can see there's obviously a bunch of work to do on the integration, and there's a bunch of steps. Gary described it perfectly in a one-to-one he did with us. Ground game. I think that's a really good way of describing it. Great announcements this last couple of weeks, really good story, lots of work to come. But the other thing I would say, and Gary made this point really clearly, was, and Chuck did in their sort of one-to-one with the analysts, it was so many acquisitions focus on integration and innovation stops. You guys were really explicit, and I asked a question of Gary in that sort of session, and it was, well, if you're going to continue to do innovation and do integration, you're now asking the development teams to do 2 things. Does that mean there's going to be more investment in R&D? Chuck came in over the top and said, absolutely, yes, this is not a cost drive out play. This is we know this isn't going to be what the financial analysts want us to hear, or what they want to hear, because they want to hear, put 2 companies together,
find the synergies,
trim cost. But we've been explicit, this is going to cost us more money in the next 12, 18 months. We're going to do innovation and integration. That's huge.
It is, and candidly, from being part of Splunk and hearing leadership say things like that gives me a lot of confidence. Frankly, it makes me excited to be part of the future, to see some of those integrations come to life. One of the things that's interesting in the world of integrations is, everything starts with the data, in this world of observability. And one of the things that I would be curious to get your take on is, sure, we can say that we can integrate Thousand Eyes and AppD and Splunk's portfolio, but at the end of the day, data management matters, and sending the right data to the right platform at the right time is sometimes a challenging concept. So I'd be curious, your take on, kind of where you see the industry and the market going as it relates to kind of federated data management and analyzing sort of against a fabric.
Well, it's really interesting. I had a chance to spend some time with Morgan from the Otel community. I think if you'd have tried to pull this acquisition off 5 years ago, you'd have had a bunch of private agents, you'd have had ThousandEye agents, you'd have had AppD agents, you'd have had Splunk agents. Yeah. They all would have been written differently. The collectors wouldn't have spoken to each other. Yeah. Morgan and I got into a fantastic conversation of how he'd been tasked to sort of do some of the integration tasks. It's like, oh, well, it already writes to Otel. Oh, well, we already collect Otel. Oh, that's job done then.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's plumbing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not the sexy stuff. That's not AI. That's not, AI ops and kind of all that observability stuff at the kind of high level that's going to be good on a keynote.
Yeah.
But it makes it really easy for teams. Also, I don't have to roll out a bunch of collectors.
Agreed.
Oh, okay, it's just out. Oh, yeah, we're already doing this. Yeah. So I think you guys have profited from the time at which you've done the integration as well as what you've done, because the technology is mature enough with Otel to be able to allow you to do the integration work you've on top. So that's kind of the first piece.
You can't observe or you can't secure what you can't see, so you have to make instrumentation easy. So that's a Gary ground game, right? You got to make the instrumentation easy.
It's not sexy. It's not keynote worthy to talk about Otel integration.
Right.
You want to be out there talking about how you're using AI in order to sort of drive down alert fatigue and speed up mean time to resolution and those types of things. Yeah. And I get that. But the integration you guys are going to be on this Gary Steele sort of ground game is so much easier because of where the community's got you with Otel. So that's kind of the first piece of a long rambling way to answer the first bit of your question. I think then when you pull all of that data in from the collector side, if it's all been collected using Otel standards, part of the piece of data management is that data all consistent? Is it all the same formatting? Or is it coming from 3 different tools and I've got to janky sort of put it together? Yeah. Because it's all coming off that common framework and that common set of, yes, the tools are slightly different and there's some work you've got to do, but that work's so minimized that the sort of alerts and the feeds are so similar now because they're coming off that consistent piece. The data management piece and that platform piece that you're building is just going to be so much easier. Yeah,
one of the trends that we're seeing too, and a sort of a big innovation area for Splunk, has been answering this very real challenge that many customers have, which is, whether for economic reasons or technical reasons or governance and compliance reasons, not all data can be sent to Splunk, right? It's just not a realistic expectation, again, for many reasons. And one of the big sort of focus areas for engineering and innovation has been on this data management experience, which is not only how do we make it easier for organizations to instrument and bring the right data to the right platform at the right time, so good data management on the ingest side, but also the reality that if you have analysts who are working in Splunk, you have SREs that are in Splunk, you don't want to have to make them move to a different platform to go look at data that might have been stored somewhere else, like some sort of S3 data lake or an Amazon security data lake. I'm curious what your take is on kind of that idea of analyzing things in place in that federated environment. How do you think that shifts the market, and what are the outcomes that you think customers will experience?
So we had a customer panel, I think it was the guy from Progressive, said, we don't need more tools. Yeah. And it's a really simple thing. You look particularly at the security space. If you're I wasn't out at RSA, but I looked at the exhibitor list. It was like 300 plus vendors. Wild, yeah. Everybody's got a tool. I think CISOs and ops leaders now are like, I don't want another tool. I really don't. Yeah. I want that platform play. And if you're going to have that platform play, then that's crucial I want all this stuff to come together in one place. The other dynamic that's part of this is hybrid as one. I think if you wind back maybe 5-6 years, it was cloud first. Yeah. Everything's going to be on the cloud. I think with AI, we're going to see a lot more what I call repatriation. I think people are experimenting on the public cloud for doing sort of training.
Yeah.
But when they get into deploying inference and they're looking at deploying the application, they're going to be like, I want this data on-prem, or at least want to be able to put my hands around it.
Yeah.
So I think if you kind of look at those two dynamics, not jumping between different tools, having all that information in one sort of single pane of glass. How long have we been talking about single pane of glass? But
It's finally
it's still the holy grail for a lot of these IT shops. I want to invest in one platform. I want all the data to come to that one platform. I want it to be able to manage as many things as possible. I just don't want to be, I got enough going on with alert fatigue.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be dealing with UIs and different interfaces and different tools and single sign-on into this and RBAC into that. I just want it all in one place. I want it nice and simple.
Yeah, I agreed. I think it's the big ask, and it's frankly a big pain, as you identified, for a lot of the senior leadership.
I think you guys are getting there. I mean, Otel as an enabling technology, the three components of the observability platform, what you guys are doing on a security point of view, some of the collaborations with some of the vendors that you've announced over the hyperscalers.
Yeah.
You kind of pull all those bits together. I mean, Tom's got some work ahead of him in his organization, but you pull all those bits together, I can see a pattern emerging that looks good for you guys.
Fantastic, I appreciate that. Now, speaking of, we said before, some of the things that are really fun to see at keynote-worthy announcements, a lot of the announcements this week at .conf and at Cisco Live last week really centered on artificial intelligence, probably unsurprisingly. It's there's a lot of market washing going on, but I'm curious, as you look at what Splunk has announced and Cisco's been announcing over the last few weeks, what's your take on the Splunk AI announcements and sort of strategy?
How long did we go without mentioning AI?
It was incredible. I think you may have mentioned it earlier, but we finally
I think that's probably a record for a podcast or a session in 2024. We must have gone 10 minutes without mentioning AI.
It's incredible. We got there, though.
Yeah. Again, the guy from Progressive in the customer panel came up with a phrase, and it's my quote of the week. It's not artificial intelligence, it's assisted intelligence. So I think we're not at the point yet where somebody's going to allow, certainly in a mission critical environment, I see this alert, allow an AI to screen and filter and pull that alert together and go, this looks exactly like one of these, now kick off an automation script to go and fix it. There's going to be humans in the loop, and probably there will be for a long time. So I think this concept of it's not artificial intelligence, this assisted intelligence has really stuck with me. How do we assist those ops teams, those security teams, to do more faster? I think where we are, 18 months into AI now, from having to learn phrases like LLM and RAG and vector. None of us really, that wasn't in the vernacular for me at least.
You were in academics.
None of us were talking about large language models and RAG and vector 18 months ago, but we all are now. I think for me, as I look across this space, there's really three use cases for AI that are just now at the point where they're no-brainers. AI chatbots. If you're questioning whether that's a thing, you're missing something. Code assistance, that's just a no-brainer. Leveling up a development team, it's a 30 to 50% cheat code that you've just unlocked. I think I've added one this week to that list of what was 2 is now 3, which is being able to take huge amounts of data, huge feeds, being able to look through it, and then being able to query it with a large language model and be able to get to mean. The other phrase that this gentleman used was mean time to decision. Based on everything that I'm looking at, where am I? What am I going to do next? Here's some options. And be able to make those decisions. I think for me that's just a slam dunk. If you're not doing that and you don't plan to implement that in the next 12 months, you're just missing something. I don't think it's a discussion of should I do it. It's a question of when you should do it.
Yeah, it is interesting because when you think about the announcements that we made this week around the AI assistants, a couple of them sort of fit in both categories, I would say. So the AI assistant for SPL certainly is a code generation and explanation capability, because everything in Splunk starts with a search, right? A query is always where we start, so that's kind of the code, if you will. But the other two that were announced, that security assistant for observability, or AI assistant for observability and AI assistant for security, I think sort of fit in that back half, which is driving decision making for the practitioners in security. How pervasive do you think that's going to be? And I guess the bigger question would be, how do you think that changes the staffing profile and what the people side of the business for these operations groups?
I mean, I don't subscribe to this view that's being pushed that AI is going to lead to job kind of destruction.
Yep.
I think we still have people who write articles. I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Do I write them faster, and is it easier to write them than it would have been if I was writing them 50 years ago on a typewriter? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's still that article being written. I think the same analogy for where we're going to be with these teams. I'm not hearing anybody say, oh, there's not more things to manage.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing anybody go, oh, life's simpler than it was 5 years ago. I'm not hearing anybody go, oh, there's less threats from a cybersecurity than there was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All of those are, it's a hybrid, multi-cloud, really scary threat landscape.
Mm-hmm.
You put all of that out there, and if we can get these guys a cheat code that unlocks 30 to 50% productivity, they'll take it.
Absolutely.
And we get that team to just be more productive.
Yeah.
I don't see anything that says that team's going to get 30 to 50% smaller.
No.
I just see that team's going to get 30 to 50% more efficient and just be able to do different work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need somebody going through log data, almost manually trying to find something.
Yeah.
You want your experienced kind of high value staff going, I think I'm seeing this, what's happening, querying that data in a natural language query, being able to pull it back and go, okay, this is where I think I am. What would have taken me half an hour of pouring through logs is now going to take me 2 minutes. Bang, I'm straight into that. Meantime to make a decision is down to sort of 2 or 3 minutes, and we're straight into deploying a fix or making a patch or doing whatever's needed, and the service is going to be improved faster. I mean, I'm not hearing any line of business go, oh yes, we can take longer with this service down. I mean, you guys announced a report that I've not had a chance to dig into about the downtime. Some of the high level stats, I mean,
it's stunning.
These things really make an impact. So if you can get to that fix faster, I don't see IT executives going, we don't want that team to be more productive. I don't see there any scenario where that team gets smaller.
Yeah, I subscribe to the same kind of concept, which is like that lump of labor fallacy is not true. Like there's new work being created. And candidly, I think the takeaway from that is, the teams that embrace AI the most meaningfully are the ones who will have the best outcomes, drive the most.
I don't think there's a choice.
What's that?
I genuinely don't think there's a choice.
Yeah.
How many people are writing blogs with a quill pen on parchment?
That's exactly
There's not
right.
a choice.
Yeah, welcome to the evolution.
Yeah, there's not a choice. Now, yes, you may install Grammarly to get you a little, there's some things you may do, so there is still a continuum.
For sure.
But the ship has sailed.
Yep.
You're going to have to use these tools.
Excellent. Well, we're trying to make those available in Splunk as rapidly as possible. Big investments coming, more things coming back after the year. Stephen, thank you so much for your perspective.
Always
Thanks
a pleasure,
for
sir.
being here. Can't wait to spend more time with you in the back half of the year. And thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you've appreciated this conversation between Stephen Dickens from the Futurum Group and me. I'm Corey Minton saying thanks for joining us.